Magda Frątczak, Global Sales and Marketing Director at Cloudity.
Yes.
We have David Rådberg, Senior Regional Vice President at Salesforce. And CJ Kihlbom, Senior Product Manager at Teamtailor. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you.
Okay, so first off, how can digitalization proactively help people and businesses come out stronger on the other side of a crisis/recession? David.
Thank you. That's a pretty big question.
Yeah, right.
Before coming here, I was actually asking some of the specialists we have internally. So I asked the question to our retail expert here in Sweden, and she came up with an answer which is pretty interesting, I think. She says, from a retail perspective, what we see right now is since 8 years back, acquire a customer costs 222% more in the retail industry. 2024, she says that the third-party cookies are being moved out, and e-commerce is actually declining this year, 5%. So it's a pretty dark insight to that industry. On the same hand, she says that a lot of the focus right now for her clients in that industry is how do we make sure to get that first-party data and gather that data, make sense of the data so that we, after 2024, can be first out and streamline that to the customer and audience. Secondly, a gentleman from our bank industry came in and he said that's totally different in the bank industry in Sweden and not for Silicon Valley Bank, but in Sweden. He says this is, I mean, it's a great time. The margins are fantastic, maybe a little bit of cut in between on the interest rates there, but they're doing fantastic. The main thing for them is not fear of missing out, it's fear of messing up. Compliance, all that kind of stuff is top of their mind to keep their position. So I would say, I mean, downturn, negative word sometimes, but it could also be very different between where you look in the industry. Long answer, sorry on that.
No, it's super interesting. CJ, what's your take on the same question?
I think one of the interesting parts about a recession is how it often breeds innovation. We talk about necessity is the mother of invention, and how new economic climates and new circumstances like this force us to be innovative and force us to try new things because the old things are no longer working. We see lots of examples of this. One of my favorite ones is in 2008 with the big financial crisis hitting, rents were skyrocketing, people were losing their jobs. There were two people in the US, Brian Chesky and Joe Jedia, who were struggling to afford their rent for their apartment and decided to rent out some air mattresses on their floor in their apartment. And then that became Airbnb. And that's just a small trivial example that became something huge, but it all comes from that necessity of being forced to act in a way. And then the tricky part is acting how or acting in what way. But yeah, I'm sure that a few years from now, we will see lots of exciting new things that started here in this crisis, because it was needed.
On that note, Magda, how do you think that companies should approach digitalization in the current economic climate?
I think that we already see on the mega deals that how the digitalization support the common people, the ordinary one, but also the companies. So for sure, the AI is something which is, our future. We will not run from that. And I also have a story from one of our customers. They have a lot of data, and it is also the banking one. So they have really a lot of data. They are not structured. They are just somewhere. And that is why they decide that in the moment when fighting for the customer, for the new customer is quite difficult, it will be easier for them to use their data just to make it structured, make it better, and use it for eventually upsell or cross-check with the customers existing the old one if they are still interested in the all portfolio products. And they did it in a 3 month. They deliver higher amount of revenue than in the last 18 months from the same database because they use the technology. So they use software which are supporting to structure the data to make it easier to be understandable for the people. And of course, they were using some AI's background around that. So that's the one thing which can be used in all industries. It was banking, but it can be retail as well. It can be like, car renting and so on and so on. So everywhere where we have like a software, the technology, which will support us to use our knowledge and we will use a little bit of AI, this is the place where we can build something new and something big for the future.
Sounds cool, but expensive in an economic crisis.
Yes,
Should companies really, invest in these kinds of initiative over cost-cutting measures during a recession?
It's tempting to just have the cost-cutting way of work right now, but it's tempting for the short time. In longer time, when you want to be competitive in your industry, you need to do something to be different. Otherwise, you will be exactly the same as all of the rest people in this industry. So how you can do it? You can, from the customer perspective, you can be more. You can work with your existing customer. You can make the they feel better. They feel you have the personalized message for them, not to all of the other people. Like AI, yes? Just make it something which will more personalize for you. You will have a feeling that this message is for me. It's not for all of the other people. Of course, it's easy to go the easiest way. So, okay, I will cut the cost, and then I will probably lay off the people, I will close my offices, I will just work on my laptop and then I will survive. Yes, you will survive this year, but the people who invest in the time when it is really difficult to invest, and they will invest in big data, they will invest in cybersecurity to be sure that everything will be secured. They will invest in AI, they will invest in digitalization, so making their sales, marketing, everything around customer service much better. They will win. Because if you are not changing, it means that you are staying in the same place. And the world is changing all the time. So before you will survive 2023. But in 2024, you will be happy, yes, I'm survived, perfect. Now I'm ready to go. And then your competitor will be far in front of you. And it will be like, whoa, I just lose my time. So it is the strategic decision right now to take that, part of our revenue, our profit should go for investment. Otherwise, we will just be blocked for the next years.
CJ, what's your take on this?
I liked what you said when you introduced Christopher and Daniela about how it's about doing more with less. And the question is more what? You can focus on getting more efficiency through cost cutting and automation and streamlining workflows and better ways of working. All of that is super valuable, and you should definitely look into that and consider that. But you can also think about how can we produce more value? How can we do more for our customers with less? And that's where I think the focus on customer experience becomes really important, and the whole digitalization as a way to offer new customer experiences. One of my favorite examples is from before I started at Teamtailor. I was running an agency focused on digital transformation for customers, and we worked with Liseberg, the big amusement park in Gothenburg. And one of their issues, of course, was that the more popular the amusement park became, the longer the queues were. And when there's a visitor in the queue, Liseberg is not making money from them, basically. And people are not having a great experience, crucially. So what we did there was to build a mobile app for them that enabled digital queues for them. So as a visitor, you download the app, and you could basically book a spot in a queue from your phone. And then you are free to go buy candy or play some of the games or do something else, making money for the company, but also providing a much better experience for the customer. And then when it was your time, you'd show up at the attraction, you'd get a push notification and say, time to go, stand in line, and then just a few minutes later, you were off to the ride. And I think that's just a concrete example of the types of new experiences that are possible with digitalization. And I would encourage you all to think about both of these sides. How can we be more efficient with less through better tools, but also how can we provide more value to our customers or to our employees?
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Just a comment. So when we talk about digitalization, it's usually like, oh, that sounds expensive. Sometimes tapping into what you said is that you find that example where you really can make a change, even if it's a small one.
Yeah.
And a good example that I like is Mathem. Maybe you've been shopping at Mathem during the pandemic. It was a good time for Mathem. We turned our eyes towards online shopping, but they couldn't handle all the cases coming in. It was just overwhelming. They were crashing, and people went to the other vendors in that industry. So just by looking at what cases came in, understanding what cases and how we can build a bot with a small amount of people and money, they deflected 65% of the cases and really start to flourish in that. So that was a really small, but we found, so to say, that nugget. And I think that's important as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a big change.
It needs to be the first step. Like even Spotify did it with the AI and machine learning. They are looking for your, they are building the recommendation for you based on your, past music, which you choose, your friends, what is hearing, and so on and so on. They are building the dedicated recommendation for you. And it's not something big. It's really small, using something which already exists. It's not, building the ROM from scratch. It's just starting to use a really, really small thing, and then it will grow. When you will have additional, value coming from that, you will see that, okay, it was worth to do so. And then the next step will be much easier. So start from really, really baby steps, and then it will just like a snowball.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, because one of the other things that we read a lot about is all of these huge failed digitalization projects, right? Often connected to governmental projects. I don't know why that is, but we see so many projects where they've put hundreds of millions of Swedish kroner or dollars only to cancel the whole thing a few years in.
But not only in Sweden.
Not only in Sweden.
All over the world. The governance one is really the tricky one.
So I think what you said, Magda, is really key for everyone to really try to start small, to try to do lots of small experiments using free tools to start with, to figure out where is the opportunities that could really make a difference for us. And then as you start seeing something there, start pulling on that thread, and then you can start scaling that up with, getting great people or great consultants or big enterprise software. Like all of that can be super valuable once you know where that value is and how to get there. So try to de-risk some of those projects.
But also from the customer perspective, it's really difficult to say to the vendor which they cooperate with what they really want in the beginning, because they don't know what they want. They know like a small portion of, we want to be there, but how you will go there. Yeah, let's sit and talk. So
how can we as vendors help guide our customers?
So I can say also, Cloudity is the consultancy and implementation partner of Salesforce. So we are delivering the consultancy as well as implementing projects related to Salesforce platform. What we realized that it was also a very good story in the past that we want to have a big digital projects. They are really like the best, like the governance one. Yeah, so there will be the best one. They were good, but they were tough. It was big, a lot of people, a lot of stakeholders, a lot of departments involved in that, and it was really difficult to go there. And the perception of the customer changed when the project was already ongoing. So when we agreed that, okay, that will be the results changed when we were in the project. And then it was really difficult to change the whole story inside and go into the other direction, because the customer changed their mind. That's the customer, they can do it, yes, but then we need to figure it out how we can deliver them. So right now, and this is also the baby small steps idea, we are going with the really basic small changes, and then we are doing it with customers, sitting with them, talking with them that, okay, what is your goal, where you would like to go, what are the pain points, and so on and so on. And based on that, we are making a really baby steps. And after that, they are seeing very quick the value. And even the money that which was spent, it was like, okay, I spent like some money, but after 2-3 months, I see the results. And I say, yeah, that makes sense. Let's go for that. And then we are going for the next phases. So with the really small portion, it shouldn't be like a huge effect. It can be really something small, and then it will grow internally.
CJ.
I think another key point is to look at the tools you already have. It's not always the case that you need a new tool or a new solution, but start with looking at what you already have and how can you make the most out of that. At Teamtailor, we work really hard to build a product that is super easy to get started with for new users, but at the same time that has a lot of depth for power users or for larger companies with larger needs. And that's a tricky balance to get right, but we really try. But we also have invested a lot in having great support people and great customer success team that can help our customers really get the most out of the product. And I know that there are a lot of great vendors that work in the same way. And so I would encourage everyone to reach out to your vendors and talk to them and try to figure out, how can we make the most with this tool that we already have? Because often there is so much potential there that won't cost you anything beyond what you're already paying, but you could get a lot more value out of that.
Okay, but so stepping out, all of you, because we're all representing software technologies here, but stepping out a bit of your role as a vendor and thinking more about your own organizations and your experience working with digitalization, what would you say are the benefits of a powerful tech stack to a company in times of crisis? And maybe also some tips on what kind of tools that you actually need. And maybe you're not sort of set from the get-go. David?
The best use of a powerful tech stack. Last week we had an internal session for the leadership team for Salesforce in Sweden, and we looked at the vision from last year. So it's only 12 months back. On that vision is said Salesforce in Sweden should be the #1 place for companies to turn to for digitalization. We should help them to work from anywhere and create that digital HQ. And we looked at that note and said, work from anywhere and digital HQ, that doesn't feel good anymore, right? And this is only 12 months back. What's happened since then is that McKinsey and ourselves and a lot of the companies have seen we need people to come in. We need to do that in a different way. So obviously we changed that vision this year. Still, with the tools that we have and living from where we are, I think the flexibility of changing that mindset from work from anywhere to maybe work more efficient internally. So we use that in this way. It's a lot about Slack and our own CRM system, but we have the flexibility to do things differently internally. So we have that foundation, whatever vision that we paint this year. But time goes fast, 12 months.
CJ?
I don't necessarily agree with the shift from work from anywhere to work more efficiently in-house. I don't think those are necessarily contradictory. I think that depends on the company and the circumstances, of course. I think there are lots of companies where work from anywhere has led to lots of increased efficiency and increased productivity, and it's something to be doubled down on. And some of the teething issues of learning how to do this have started to settle, and many companies have gotten better at handling those challenges. And so as an employee or as a leader in the company, using the tools that enable and support that type of work can lead to great efficiencies. But I definitely agree with the importance of the flexibility to being able to adapt and have tools that support that, basically. And there are lots of concrete examples like that. I feel like one of the important things for me when I think about that is interoperability or integrations. So having a suite of tools that work well together and where you're able to kind of replace different parts as your needs change without having to change the whole thing. I think that offers a great flexibility that lets you grow and adapt as your needs change. Yeah.
But is it also like the people are right now a little bit, close at their homes or the place, because the remote work is obvious for us right now. Probably like 4 years ago it wasn't so obvious. So not even 12 months, but 4 years shows us that we really are able to be agile and flexible. We need to be, otherwise we'll just disappear from the market. Wherever the company you are, you can be a small or big one. Of course, the big one has much easier, yes, because it would be quite difficult to disappear. But as a smaller local, especially local companies, it was really difficult to survive. So we need to be agile. And right now, the agility means a little bit something a little bit different than a year ago. So, okay, we can work from wherever we want. We have tools, we have an integration, we can use the data, we can use, analytics, everything which will support us. But in the end, there is a person in the end of the whole chain. There is a live person, like people, like a group of people, teams. And we need to also work on building maybe even from the scratch sometime, building the relationship between people. Because I also see it from my experience that after the pandemic, no one wants to meet because, yeah, we can do online and so on. And it was obvious. It was easier. You don't need to travel and so on. The costs are lower and so on. It was obvious. Right now, it's opposite. Like they are asking, can we have a meeting like face to face? I'm really tired of sitting in front of my laptop and just see, all that part of you. I have no idea how big you are, how, tall you are and so on, how you, look like a live.
Yeah, this event is also
exactly, and that is why this is really something which I was missing, honestly, that kind of meeting on face-to-face. And this is also the agility which we need to be prepared. And of course, the tools, wherever the tools are, they are supporting us. But in the end, as leaders, as managers, we need to take care also about the people who is behind that tools. So the tools, perfect, making our life easier. Let's go for that. But don't forget about the, living creatures on the other side.
Yeah. Okay. Super interesting. But CJ, you talked a bit about this with integrations. You started touching upon this. But what are some effective or efficient ways of automating and streamlining businesses to improve efficiency, to reduce cost? We've sort of touched a bit upon it, but dive a bit deeper.
Yeah, I think going back to that discussion about starting small and so on, there are lots of different free tools that are easy to get started with, and then finding ways of stringing that together. Like you can do so much with automation tools like Zapier, for instance, or things like that that you can use to connect your own workflows in different ways. And then there are, of course, vendors that are really focused on integrations and how that work as well. I know that Oneflow has a lot of great integrations, including with Teamtailor, and that's one of the things that's been really successful for us as a company to invest heavily in that. But I think at the core, it's like using simple tools as well, using Google Sheets if you already have that, and connecting that with something else through something like Zapier. And
you have a concrete real-life example of a good implementation? Well,
one of my favorite things, I think, goes back to that part about sort of the customer experience, or at least the candidate experience in our case, where before joining Teamtailor, I worked as head of HR in a startup, and this was before 2022, it was all about recruitment, get as many people on board as possible. I was working my ass off to find great developers to join the company and so on, like many other companies. And so you spend all of that effort through the recruitment process, and then it's time to hand them the employment agreement, right? And there's here 6 pages of legalese where it feels like you're signing away your firstborn or something like that. Kind of a turn off in the whole attraction phase of recruitment, I guess. And one of the things we were able to do there was to use the integration with Oneflow to super easily send them an one-page, mobile-friendly employment agreement with a nice video welcoming them to the company and things like that. And what was so nice about that, it was kind of both sides of what I was talking about earlier, but more efficient and more value. Because using the integrations, we were able to really streamline that workflow, remove all of the manual steps out of that. No one had to go talk to legal to get the employment contract and so on. Just drag the candidate to the right stage. Everything happened automatically, but it was also a much nicer experience for the candidate.
Disclaimer: I've not paid him to say that. Not at all.
No, and this was before I joined Teamtailor as well. So it was just actually one of the reasons I wanted to join, because that was, as a user, that was just so mind-blowing to me. It was so nice to be able to create that experience that really provided so much value to candidates and made my job a lot easier. And I think that's just one example where there are lots and lots of opportunities for things like that, where using simple tools, connecting them in a good way, you're able to both save a lot of time and effort and create a better experience for your customers or your team members, employees, or whatever. And I think that's the big wins, where you can get big wins for low effort.
Cool. David, do you have any examples, real-life examples?
I think where we see a lot of traction right now is obviously in the customer service, in the call centers. So looking at, for example, SES, they started a year back, looked at the call center, very scattered all over the place. Can we move this into a single call center and understand the customer in a better way? They started to do that, and also coming back to the discussion about acquiring new customers. In this downturn, they really see that we need to keep loyalty and keep the customer with SAS. So connecting now a company that almost goes bankruptcy, one of the biggest investments they do right now is in Salesforce to also automate not only that, but how they communicate to Gjorde bonusmedlemmar throughout customer service. So find these service and marketing pieces where you save time and sundown systems internally, but also keep customer loyal and hopefully flying SAS and keep SAS in air for the next years.
Cool. So kind of same as CJ there, but on a bit of a bigger scale.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Magda, how about you?
It's always depend from the company or industry. I can say from our yard, like we internally, what we did, we would like to use the time to make our processes easier, to optimize them, because it's easy to have tons of procedures, papers, all the stuff, agreements, and so on. Now we are trying to put them as a paperless materials, and we are using the things which we already have. So this is something what was said already by CJ, that it's like you don't need to spend a lot of money to do something. You can start from internal things and make the steps, sit together, make brainstorming to figure it out what kind of optimization will be or automatization will be better for you. You can use the tool, the free version, or you can use the tools which you already have in your company. So we did a lot of internal activities which already have also an impact for the customer loyalty. So for example, they are not waiting too long for the signing the agreement. They have all the materials which are sent in the proper way. They have access to that. We are using the Google's as well, Google Sheets, so the Google Drive and so on. So it's really easy, and it's giving us additional time to spend it for the contact, like a live contact with them, to understand what are their needs from their side. And we can use our experience internally in the company to the customer side and say that, okay, with the really small change of the process, you can have the huge automatization. Yeah. So we don't need to be like, like the NHS, so National Health System in UK, who use the automatization process to, reduce 60% of the people waiting for the doctor's appointment and so on. It don't need to be such a huge result right now. It can be really like a small portion that the new employee or the customer will not wait for the agreement like 2-3 days. It will be done immediately. It's the small things. Maybe they are obvious, but it is really making the change. So and of course, the employee need to be ready for changes. So internal discussion with people, what will happen, what are the goals, why we are doing that, because, you know, all of us are something, yeah, I like what I'm doing, it's working, so why then I should change it, yes? Maybe if we will change it, you will have more time to other stuff. It's obvious, but sometimes we are really forget about this foundation.
Is this something that you've also done within your team internally? Sort of looked at the processes and see where you can save and automate?
This is what we are doing all the time internally, not only in sales, not only in marketing, but between legal, between delivery and so on. We are quite a big company right now, almost 400 people. So, and we are located in many places in Europe. So it's really difficult to have this discussion on, you know, Google Meets. It works perfectly, but nevertheless, it's always good to have some process. And process and procedures can kill the company. So we also know that. So it's really like a really thin line between killing them yourself by the processes and make them really helpful for your daily basis work.
Cool. Last question before we open up for the audience questions. What digital trends are on your radar these days? CJ, you go first.
It almost feels boring to say it, but of course AI. We've already seen lots of great examples in the previous presentation here. We hear lots of news every day. Things are moving at, quite frankly, an alarming rate. I think it's a little bit scary to me. And I've been working with this thing for 20 years now, and it's still a little bit daunting how quickly things are moving right now. But at the same time, there's so much potential here, and we're seeing it being implemented day by day in more and more companies and providing real value in just kind of mind-blowing ways. Like, I haven't seen Taplio before, but that was quite scary, I thought as well, and also super cool. We're working at Teamtailor to implement AI support in various parts of the recruitment process, both the employer branding and engagement part of things, with creating engagement content to help attract candidates, similar to what Daniela was showing, but from a recruitment perspective, but also in the actual recruitment phase and assisting with assessing candidates and things like that. So there's lots of opportunities there. I saw, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Google announced their own AI initiatives within Google Docs and Gmail and so on, being super integrated into all of their tools. So you could have AI summarize an email thread, create a whole presentation for you, generate all of the images for that based on your prompts and things like that. So really having that AI assistant all with you. We've seen Intercom just release, I think it was yesterday or something like that, a really next level AI powered support to have sort of an AI chat that actually works, that's actually good, as opposed to a lot of the things that we've seen before that have been more primitive than what we have now. So I feel like this is like the huge mega trend, of course, that everyone is talking about. So there's no breaking news, but I think it's still very much under development, so something to follow for sure.
Maybe difficult to follow, but David, what digital trends are on your radar apart from AI?
Yeah, it's tagging along, obviously. So Salesforce launched 6 days ago how our chat GPT will work in Slack. So you have a long Slack channel, you don't have the time to read through. You get the help to get a summary of what's in there, so you quickly can go and add some value in that Slack channel. Personally, I would love to ask the bot about, you know, bringing up my forecast for next week or brewing some coffee. Maybe that's not going to work, but that's going to be built in now in Salesforce, starting with Slack, and that's going to save time for people. Building reports is maybe not the favorite thing to do, but that's the boring mega trend that I just wanted to mention as well from Forrester and Gartner is the IT consolidation going on. We talked about the mega trend, how many meetings you need to do a deal. We see that is just exploding. So I think from that perspective, how we actually help the CTOs and the CIOs out there that has 70 to 100 SaaS applications in a normal Swedish company to streamline, fewer, and make most use of them. because they don't have time to negotiate these contracts or keep everything up to speed. So that's something that we, together with the partner ecosystem, need to do, and in that sense also have the trust in between.
Yeah. It will not be a surprise. AI, as of course, it's obvious, but AI already work. Right now, I think it will be more open for the ordinary people, like everyone can use the Chat GPT, can use, Einstein in GPT in Salesforce, or the, Google or Bing, wherever. There is tons of that already. But nevertheless, it's like it's already working in the other industries for many, many years and saving the time mostly. For example, for doctors in imaging, in healthcare, you can have a really, blurry image, and without AI you will not see there anything, and the radiologists can use the AI, and they are just using the knowledge from all over the world, and they can suggest you something. Of course, in the end the radiologists need to take a decision, but there is like a suggestion, and the doctor don't need to go through the Google and search or the tons of books and just use it. So it is already working, and it's saving the time, and we can use the time for other stuff. That's the one thing. The second thing is I see the trends of the customer loyalty, because right now on the recession, the customers will be extremely price sensitive. And if we will not be, giving them lower prices or give them higher value for the same prices, they probably can be open to go for our competitor. So we need to really build the relationship with them, and it needs to be a trust relationship, not only based on the money and solution or changing the goods. And the third thing is the outsourcing. People or the companies would like to outsource some services just to have a cost reduction, not to train new people, but just, sorry for wording, but buy them from the market. So the outsourcing, I think that this is, especially in IT, this is something which is growing from last years, but now it's a huge boom for that.
Cool. Thank you so much for brilliant insights. Let's open it up to the audience. Do we have any questions for the panel? Okay,
Hi, guys.
right back there.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Well, I want to thank the panelists first for a good conversation and some great insights, both from an industry perspective and the different sectors. We talked a lot about tech, we talked a lot about digitalization. I've heard twice the word people and once the word experience in 30 minutes. Nothing wrong with that. My point is more around getting your views on the, I would say, importance, at least based on my own humble experience of the business change and the element of change management to the people to drive adoption successes, building back on your point, CJ, which I really like as well. How do you actually derive the most of what you already have versus making an additional investment?
Yeah, go.
No, go ahead.
I actually had a discussion today on lunch before coming here with one of the founders of a Swedish company that is doing fast delivery. And they've been merging. And I said, as a trend, a medium-sized company has 70 to plus 100 applications in there that they're trying to make sense of. And they've been scaling and growing so fast. But now is the time to really, focus on the people that use it internally, as you said. So we've been buying stuff and adding stuff. So maybe on that end, coming back to you, scale out and help, from a vendor perspective, help these companies to really use it. And it comes from two ways: to have the users from a Salesforce perspective, the users, and also the management team to find that adoption from both ends. And help them get that investment, do more with less with what they have.
Yeah, I think this is one of the really big trends that I've been seeing for the past 5 years or something like that, is the increased focus on user experience or candidate experience or employee experience, basically service design, or thinking about the whole journey of your users or your employees or your customers, and seeing how you can take kind of a holistic approach to improving that and providing a great experience, and what parts of that does digitalization play a role in, and how can you find a great balance with that to deliver that whole. And so I feel like that's something that has really been happening at great scale for the last few years. I think it's related also to something that Emilia and I talked about a little bit earlier, which is kind of the, and this is probably not a word, but I'm on a panel and it is maybe going to make me sound smart. So consumerization, is that a word? I
Now
have
it
no
is.
idea.
Sounds
But basically how our personal lives have been digitalized to such a great extent, and we're expecting all of these great experiences because we've gotten so used to them through our phones primarily. And then for many years we came to work and it was a very different reality there. Still exists to some extent, but I feel like that has changed a lot during the last 5 years or something like that, where we now have a very much increased and better focus on providing a great experience for people, for employees or customers or users. So that definitely doesn't mean that we're done or that we can stop thinking about that. I just feel like that's a little bit more business as usual these days, which is a good thing, but still one of the key components for sure.
100%, 100%. Really good question. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Yeah, I see a raised hand over there. You'll get a mic, so hang on 5 seconds. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Great question. Big challenge. And I think this goes back to what Magda was talking about earlier a bit in investing not just in tools, because tools will only get you so far, but really investing in relationships and investing in leadership. I think this is one of the critical kind of turning points of the pandemic, was for where we saw a really big need for leadership to adapt to new circumstances and how we can keep employees engaged and fulfilled in their work so that they can continue to do great work for a long time and really thrive at work. And I don't think there's one secret answer to that. I think obviously things like mission and purpose are really important to that. And from a leadership perspective, how you communicate around that, how you work together as a team to find shared purpose and shared mission and alignment around that. So I think those are one of the critical issues that's facing leadership, and probably has for a long time, but that's kind of the heat has been turned up because of exactly what you said. So yeah, tricky part, and I don't have a solution.
Maybe you do, David.
No,
maybe
I love that question. We actually last week decided to go back into re-onboarding people. So people that's been onboarded throughout the last 2.5 years digitally, we actually bring them into re-onboarding, sending them to one of the hubs to really be sort of say buying into colleagues and the brand to do that again and do it stronger. And we're also trying to save some pieces, and this is just a small example where we, in the pandemic, started with virtual coffees every morning, wherever you were in the world. And we decided when coming back, in this mix now, we keep the morning coffee virtually, because that just brings people, we talk everything from a Melodifestivalen to the latest deal, but that brings adoption and work together the rest of the day. Even if it's just that 15 minutes, people feel like they're a big team.
It helps.
So we just keep the best that we found in the pandemic and bring it into the new, whatever that's going to be.
Cool, Magda.
And the team building. We need to remember that it's not a group of people working together. It should be a team. And to build a team, there needs to be a trust, common vision, mission, values. whatever is there. If it will be like a virtual coffee, perfect. If it will be like a lunch once per month, just to, even if the people are not from the one office, it's always help. And I think that that's also the topic which I was commenting before, that we need to came back to the reality, the face-to-face meeting and the onboarding, you know, really take care of the new person who is joining the environment.
I actually have one secret. I can tell you the secret strategy that has enabled Teamtailor's growth of 100% per year for several years now. Are you ready? It's a big one. So our strategy is happy employees leads to happy users, leads to growth. And that's quite simple. It sounds simple, but of course there's a lot of effort that needs to go into that. And so we invest a lot, both money and time and energy, into happy employees. That doesn't mean, you know, super sweet, cushy benefits and things like that. It means fulfilled employees. It means having team members that are connected and care about something together and that tackle that together. And things like making sure that you actually have time to connect, be it digitally or in person, or probably a mix of that, is crucial for that.
Great way to end this discussion, I think. Happy employees leads to happy customers. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Big round of applause.